Hey, everybody. Good evening. Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. Welcome to Dissident Dispatch and the Reason We Learn. Thank you for tuning in. If you are not already a subscriber to this channel, please go ahead and hit that button to join the channel. Also, like and share this broadcast. It helps get people listening live. And I really do want more people to be here so they can join in the chat, ask questions. I will try to, periodically check, see how you're doing, see what kind of questions you've got. Today, what are we talking about? You've probably heard the Agenda 2030 thing from the WTF. You've heard the expression, you will own nothing and be happy. Now, people have said different things about what that means. Some have said, no, no, no. Mr. Schwab did not mean that you will literally own no private property. He just meant you won't need to necessarily. You will be happy with less. You will use less and you will be happy with less. And it was really not meant to say you would never own any private property. Other people have said, nope, he pretty much means it. Everything will be rented and you will not need to own anything because the people in power will own everything. And we'll take a look at what some experts have said he really means, which is more towards the latter of what I said, which is that you won't actually own anything. Things will be communal. Close. Yes, close. But first I found, just to make things kind of fun, I found this adorable little parody to share with you to open up while I go grab some information.
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to hear it in your pod. You'll own nothing and be happy.
Catchy.
Ain't got no cash, ain't got no car, but 24 booster shots in your arm. Own nothing. Be happy. You can't even buy shit in the store because of your low social credit score. Own nothing. Be happy. You'll own nothing and be happy.
Very happy though.
Be happy and eat the bugs.
Okay, be happy and eat some bugs. I thought that was very funny. And so I thought I would share it with you. But you may have been wondering, okay, it's easy to see how they're going to make sure we own nothing. That's pretty simple, right? I could think of several mechanisms to make sure it's really difficult for us. I mean, already, if you have a mortgage, the bank owns your home. Even if you own your home and you've paid off your mortgage, they can keep jacking up your property taxes until you can't afford to pay them. And, do you really own your home? And the government can come along and go, yes. So we all got together last week and decided that your house is worth $100,000 more than it was last year. And as a consequence, we're going to tax you more. You don't have a problem with that, do you? I mean, they can do that. They have done it. Did it to me this month. New tax bill. No resemblance to reality, that valuation of my home. It's crazy. Yes, I could appeal. Everyone's like, go appeal. Like, okay, I'll try. But I remember a while back, they made it so hard to show up. It's like, you must wear a mask and you have to wait in line. And no, we're only seeing 10 people today. And, so you have to be really committed to do that appeal process. And 99.9% of the time they say no anyway. So I'm not saying I'm not going to. I'm just saying, got to get a lot of ducks in a row and devote an entire day. So there's that. They make you do it in person. It's the one thing we can't do digitally. But you might be wondering, though, how do they keep us happy? We're already not happy with the amount that we don't own things, like for real, that we sort of only are allowed to borrow them, even when we supposedly own them, even our cars. Property tax on your car, registration on your car. I own 2 cars outright, like no loans on them. But between the property tax I pay every single year, the registration I pay every year, the inspection fee I pay every year, not to mention, of course, the tax we have in North Carolina, the highest gas tax, I think, in the nation. After all, you're like, do I really own this car? Or, am I just kind of renting it on an ongoing basis from the government? And I know there'll be people say, but you use the roads, you need to pay for the roads, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, I use the toll road and I pay for that when I use it. When I don't use it, I don't pay for it. How about a use tax? No, a property tax. Okay. So I'm not super happy. I know a lot of people are not super happy with the state of affairs in terms of our relative degree of ownership. So how are they going to keep our kids happy when things are worse? When we own nothing at all. We can't, when we have a social credit score and can't even choose what we want to eat. I'm sorry, you've had your requisite number of hamburgers for the month. You can't have beef. Eat the bugs. How are we going to keep them happy? Well, I wondered that, and I got my answer over the weekend through my email from the American Federation of Teachers. I subscribe to, oh, well, hello. Soundism. I could like, hi, Deb, long time no see. Well, hello. I apologize. I don't know who you are, but thank you for saying hi. So the AFT has a thing called Share My Lesson. And despite telling us over and over that the teachers unions do not make curriculum, they do, as I've shared with you many times. They do. And in addition to making curriculum, they share it for free with all the teachers, and not just the teachers, with the public. I'm not a union teacher, but I subscribe to the mailing list. And so they send me this handy dandy thing. And I will bring that up for you right now. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. There it is. Positive Education Classroom Bingo Cards, SEL Special Education. That just tells you like what category it's in. And I thought, of course, I see SEL and I'm like, what's this? Because I cover that like very closely. But then I started looking at what terms they were using. It says Proof Positive Autism Wellbeing Alliance. So that's where the curriculum's coming from. And I thought, autism well-being, public school teachers. Okay. And I kept going. Subject, health and wellness, mental, emotional, and social health, special education, autism. Grades 3 through 12. Activity, interactive, good for parents, students with disabilities. Attribution, non-commercial, whatever. In other words, you can use this freely. You have all these resources and so on. But it says who it's good for, but it's not restricted. Any teacher could use this. Now, most teachers might not. They might say, I don't have time for this. I don't have enough autistic kids in my class. But I learned from covering SEL that what starts in special ed never stays there. Let me repeat that. Make sure you get it. What starts in special ed does not stay there. Social emotional learning started in special ed. It started specifically, as you can imagine, with the students who had very real emotional regulation challenges. And it was initially on either a one-to-one basis where people especially trained in dealing with this would help kids manage their emotions in accordance with their unique individual needs. Sometimes they get small groups. If they found 2 or 3 kids that were like pretty close in terms of what was going on, they might do small group work. But for the most part, it began as a one-on-one thing for counselors. Here are some lessons. Here are some things you could do to help your special needs student with their emotional regulation and their emotional problems. Okay, fine. How long did that last? It's in everything now. Social emotional learning is for everyone. And it went from being something we do in special needs, special ed for these kids with these special challenges to transformative SEL, where we're going to completely transform the society to be a more equitable and just society using social and emotional learning. Well, social and emotional learning has morphed not just in terms of what it aims to do, but it has also been subject to lots of criticism. So it's changing its name. It's now going from SEL to wellness or well-being. You're going to see that a lot. When you start seeing wellness and well-being pop up, that's why I said WTF is wellness. Well, wellness is the new brand name for SEL, but we're going to ease you into it by saying it's for autistic kids. Color me skeptical, and I'll explain why when I show you the materials, because if this really is for autistic kids, it's even worse than it would be for neurotypical kids. And it's still bad. It's bad for everybody. But if you talk about kids on the spectrum, big misconception is that it's a spectrum where it's like one line, and that all the potential issues you could have as a neurodivergent person are going to fall somewhere on that line. You'd be like a little bit of this, a little bit, but it's not like that. It's much more like dials on your stove or something, or even dials on a sound mixer. That would be better. Dials on an amp, where let's say one dial represents your ability to move around in space and your perception of like, physical space. Another one might be how you deal with like sounds and textures. Another one might be your emotional and social interaction with other people. Another one might be your verbal acuity. So on each individual person, these dials are turned to a different setting. That's how you can have an autistic female that you will never know is autistic. You never. She's masking. She's very social, lots of friends, etc. But don't chew in her presence, because she's going to freak out with the sound of the chewing, or paper on carpet, or the texture of velvet. It's like she'll get physically ill and start like dry heaving. Okay, that could be an autistic person. But if you're thinking all autistic people, they can't make eye contact, have no friends, don't know how to be happy, don't know how to function socially, that's just not true. They're neurodivergent. Their nervous systems work differently. They have certain kinds of triggers and certain kinds of things. They may stim, they may not. So to have a one size fits all, here's a program we can do with lesson plans and everything to work with autistic kids on their mental, emotional, and social health is utterly ridiculous. You cannot standardize that. You can't really standardize it for neurotypical people either, but especially for autistic people, it's be bizarre. And I think whoever put this together was saying, oh, we know so much about autistic people. I'm like, if you do, you're in denial. It's just not how it works. So anyway, so I'm just going to check back in. So Soundism says, a longtime fan, but I've been busy starting a family. Congrats. And haven't seen your videos in my feed. I now have an almost 7-year-old daughter and a son due in September. Wow. Congrats. That is a long time no see. Very thrilled for you. All right. So this came in the email, and I always look, about the lesson, and I saw this PERMA and snapshot. PERMA. I said, what is that? What is PERMA and snapshot? So then I went and clicked those links, and I arrived, and I'm going to switch screens so you guys can see it better. And I saw this. This is the website for PERMA, from Proof Positive Autism Wellbeing Alliance. Let's just read it together, and I'll comment as I go through. Explore the intersection of positive psychology and autism intervention by teaching your students to measure their well-being using PERMA Plus Snapshot. Teaching your students to measure their well-being. Now, why would you do that? Why would we take students in 3rd grade, that's roughly age 8, to 12th grade, roughly age 17, and teach them to start measuring and ranking themselves? Why would that be a good thing to do? I don't think it is a good thing to do. And that's what I'm here to say. I'm sure there'll be people who disagree and say, well, how are you going to teach kids how to, be well and check and make sure they're okay? And I'm like, well, you're not. First of all, that's not really the job of the school. Last time I checked, responding to a child who's clearly unwell. And by unwell, I mean having a tough time. They're demonstrably having a tough time. And there are ways you can tell. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. And intervening, see, notice they do say autism intervention, but this isn't intervention. This is proactive. This is getting involved. This is intervention in their lives, not intervention to respond to a problem. And that's one of the big problems I have with it. So people who are not their parents, who in many cases, if it's a teacher who is not specially trained and deeply knowledgeable about neurodivergent kids, could use these materials, and you could use them with kids who are not on the spectrum. And now you're getting up in their business and teaching them something they may not need that could be counterproductive. I would say will be. Abigail Schreier's written an entire book about how we're sort of turning school, or not just school, but we're turning our kids into patients, therapy patients. Everything is therapy now. We're so up in our fields and we're teaching our kids to do that. It's not healthy. So they're acting like the way you get to well-being is you teach people certain thought processes and certain activities, and you will arrive at being happy and healthy, as opposed to happiness, health, etc., being a product of certain achievements, behaviors, and so on. So that's why I say I think this is how they're teaching our kids to be happy when they own nothing, because they are attaching value judgments to emotion, the demonstration of emotion, and so on, as you will see, to what they call well-being. And I think the message is clear. So anyway, this is explore this. They have teaching slides, which I'm going to show you. Here's the teaching plan. Learning objectives. Students learn to identify the 6 elements critical to their well-being. Why? Did you guys arrive at adulthood not knowing this and were okay about it? Like, do you feel shortchanged that nobody taught you to identify the 6 elements critical to your well-being? Do you think you would have been more well or happier if someone had sat you down and said, now listen, these 6 things are really critical to your well-being, and if any of them is off, you're not going to be well? Do you think maybe you might have been a little more anxious as a child if someone had said that to you, if they had dissected well-being for you and put things on a list? The PERMA Plus theory of well-being, notice it's a theory. I searched, I couldn't find the evidence to support that this is good. Students explore what each element of PERMA Plus looks, sounds, and feels like for themselves and others. I'm sorry, what? They explore what each element looks, sounds, and feels like for themselves and others. This is recommended to be done in small groups, by the way. Not at all a violation of their privacy, breaking down their boundaries. Didn't you long as children to sit in a room with your peers and, discuss what well-being look, what these 6 elements look like for you, and then scrutinize your peers, find out what it looks like for them? Or are you kind of glad that was private information? Yeah. All right. Download the Google Slides, student instruction in the slide format, teacher guide. I'm going to read you the notes for the teachers. It's crazy. Then they have the different activities and so on. And then it says integration into current instruction. Are your students learning how to report information from their day? Why is this necessary? What? Why would students need to learn to report information from their day? To whom? And where's this information going to go? Why do they need to do this? Why do we need to be constantly navel gazing and checking in and taking our emotional temperature, never mind sharing it with the teachers or sharing it with the school? Try adding PERMA Plus snapshots so that they can report on their well-being from the day. Again, why? I've yet to see why this is important to anyone but the school and the people selling this garbage. And they're not really selling it, it's free. But are your students learning to identify emotions or actions in pictures? In other words, are your students learning to call things in pictures what we want them to call them, irrespective of context? Are they learning to be programmed that when they see a certain picture that it means X and we don't need to know what the story is behind it? You might add a program helping them, oink, oink, to sort and identify photos across the elements of PERMA. Now, somebody is likely to say, Deb, kids in the autism spectrum sometimes have trouble reading other people's facial expressions, etc. Yeah. Do we teach them to deal with that just by pictures? Is that dropping a whole lot of context? Yeah, it is. Because facial expressions only tell you part of the story. All right. In other words, children, one of the main ways that children pick up on whether they're safe or not safe, whether someone is a good person or not a good person, trustworthy or not, is by how they feel around that person. We all know there are people who do this, who are not to be trusted. This doesn't really tell you the whole story. And the problem is, if you teach a child, this is positive, this is good, and they don't feel it, you could be asking them to override their own natural built-in survival skill to pick up on cues that neurotypical people don't pick up on that are other than facial expressions, certain kinds of instincts that you have instead, and override those. Override those. Believe what we show you. And we see that even on social media where people show us pictures. This means this, this means this. And I'm suddenly like, you're dropping all the context. That's not what that picture is of. But they want you to believe the imagery that you will be shown equals what they want you to think it is. So this is how we train the children to do that. Override any kind of other feelings you might have, go straight by facial expression, label it, move on. Are your students learning to self-monitor and self-regulate their emotions and behaviors? Try the PERMA snapshot blueprint as a way to help them monitor and regulate their well-being. Notice they played a trick on you. Monitoring and self-regulating your emotions and behaviors does not equate to well-being. It might be a component of it. Certainly, if you are emotionally dysregulated, it's going to be hard for you to feel good. However, because other people aren't going to respond to you very well, and you're not going to feel very safe in space. But equating emotional regulation and monitoring with well-being is the problem I have. They are really trying to define well-being as what they want it to be, when you might be walking this earth thinking, well-being to me equals my very own thing. It's really up to you to decide. And it should ultimately be up to these children to decide what well-being is for them. I don't think we should not be cavalier about allowing anyone else to define this for our children. You can objectively define emotional regulation in terms of outward demonstration of your emotions. Yeah, that you can do. Defining well-being, no. Modifications and accommodations for different learning levels teach students to receptively and expressively identify or sort pictures across these. What if they don't want to? What if they're not receptive to this, but they're not rude? They're just not receptive to it. What if they don't want to expressively identify? Point to a picture that demonstrates people in a positive relationship, or show me the engaged students, all from pictures. Just pictures. Teach students to receptively and expressively identify and sort pictures within each element, positive versus negative emotions, engaged versus disengaged individuals. This is all based on appearance only. Look for the mask. Oh, look, engaged. How many times have you sat at a meeting and had a smile on your face, or just, that bland smile, and you're just nodding? Meanwhile, in your head, you're going, so I'm going to stop by the grocery store and I'm going to pick up some ground meat. And then, oh crap, I got to get my prescription. And you've not heard a single word they've said, because it doesn't matter, because you're in this boring training and you just have to get through it and not offend anyone because you don't want to get fired or whatever. So you're just kind of sitting there, or maybe you're even pretending to take notes, but you're really doodling on your page, and you periodically look up and look sincere and you nod or whatever. Oh yes, it's very interesting. And you don't particularly participate because, that's okay. You don't need to be ooh, ooh, ooh for people to perceive that you're engaged. You just have to clap at the right time. And when everyone else is laughing, oh yeah, that's great. But people walking by the door will go, they're so engaged. What a wonderful presentation you did, person presenting. Look how engaged they are. And it's all fake. It's all fake. Come on. I know you have done this. I know you have. All right. Provide students with PERMA Plus snapshot that uses images rather than words. Why? Have students drag a picture or their face to the appropriate rating. The appropriate rating across each element. All right. So now we're going to go to the actual presentation. Let's just get right to it. This is where it starts. The science. Where's my scientist in the audience, Adrian? The science of well-being and the skill of tracking yours. It's a skill now to track your well-being. Did you know that you made it all the way to whatever age you are without this skill? You are not able to track your well-being. So how do you know if you're actually well? This is terrifying. Okay. So let's see what's next. Activity 1. Things we measure. Now, when we look at this, what do we see in the pictures? Every single one of these: weight, time, temperature, amounts of money, volume, distance, size. These are objective. These are all objective. We measure them because we can. We measure them because if I measure it and you measure it, it's the same. There's nobody's value, judgment, or opinion going to change how tall that little boy is or what time it is. But what about your happiness? What are ways you have measured happiness in the past? Remember, they're talking potentially to 8-year-olds. I really want that to sink in. Or even 10-year-olds, even 12-year-olds. I can remember pretty well being those ages, and I don't recall measuring my happiness at all ever. Never sat down and said, "All right, let me figure this out." Yep, not very happy. We didn't go like that. Didn't go like that. I didn't measure my happiness at all. I either was or I wasn't. If I thought about it, it was based on a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff. And quite frankly, the less I thought about it, the better. Yeah. I mean, like a lot of kids, I grew up in a dysfunctional family, lots of issues. And I got real busy doing things like sports and activities and hobbies. And I was outside running around all the time. And I don't remember, in spite of all of these problems, I was not particularly miserable. Was I as happy as a person ought to be? We could debate that. I don't know. Probably not. But I made it. I made it through. Did okay. I did well in school, went to college, blah, 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 blah. I, wish certain things had been different, but I'm really glad, like so glad, that nobody was sitting me down in a classroom and saying, "Let's measure your happiness right now." Because I might have had to think about all the shit going on in my house that was not cool. I might have had to look more closely at the way that my parents, before they got divorced, were looking at each other and the tones of their voices. And it was already disturbing enough. And I just ran out of the house and went and ride my bike. But I might have had to sit there and go, let me rank this is a very negative relationship. Oh, this is bad. Oh, no. And I have no control over it because I'm a child. This seems to me to be a recipe for disaster and neuroticism. But okay, let's keep going. How do you know someone is happy? Brainstorm 3 ideas for how you could measure happiness in yourself and your friends. How about brainstorm 3 good reasons why you would bother? Why you would measure happiness in your friends and yourself? Try it right now. Anybody? Anybody got any ideas about what, how they would measure? How would you measure my happiness? How would you do it? I'm really curious. I mean, how would you do it for, your best friend? How do you measure their happiness? Do you? Why would you? Okay. So these are just some interesting things that I have noticed. Then moving on, we have, hold on. Where did it go? Okay. Slide. Sorry. From happiness to well-being, positive emotions. engagement, relationships, mattering. This is a new word, mattering. Accomplishment and health, for some reason, is a plus. Health is a plus? I would think health kind of comes before a lot of other things. I'm not going to have too many positive emotions if I'm sick. I'm not going to be able to accomplish much if I'm sick. I'm not going to be engaged much in life if I'm sick. My relationships might suffer if I'm sick. And as far as how much I matter, I hope I matter a lot to other people when I'm sick. But, I don't know if I'd make health the sort of plus that they have it there, but they probably just didn't have another letter. All right. So this is learn a new theory of well-being. No, I think you need to persuade me that we needed a new one. That comes first. What was wrong with the old one, which was that it was up to each individual person to decide what well-being looked like for them. And we didn't really ask 8 to 17-year-olds to come up with it. That's just not a thing that we did. This is all new. So why did we need this? You haven't sold me. Here we go. The snapshot. Here's the little smiley face like this. That's not creepy at all. How much joy, gratitude, serenity, or love have you felt lately? Now, again, you're a child or a teenager. First of all, do they even know what serenity means? As far as joy, that's going to mean different things to different people. Gratitude, same story. How much have you felt? What? And they're showing the teacher. They're showing the teacher. They're showing whoever this person in the class. I don't really, to be perfectly honest with you, want to tell most people the answer to these questions. This is really nobody's business. My first question is going to be, why do you want to know? And what are you going to do with the information? We'll get to that. Don't worry. We will get to that. But what are you going to do with this information? What if I say not much, it's a 0? Do you think that's going to trigger something to happen to this kid? Oh, yeah. Even if it's a 5. That information is going to go somewhere. It's going to be interpreted. So we're asking, this is just like with cults and coercive controllers. They're like, tell me, how are you feeling? How's it going? Okay. So they're lured into thinking I'm learning a skill. I'm going to divulge my innermost thoughts and feelings, and I'm going to learn a skill. This is manipulation. They should be able to say no, but is there any room here for, I don't want to tell you? None of your damn business. I don't want to do this at all. No, this is a boundary, personal boundary, emotional boundary that's being violated in the name of science without parents giving consent. And if you're dealing with a kid on the spectrum, they may or may not even realize, depending on their level of neurodiversity, that this is something they shouldn't be doing. This makes them very, very vulnerable. When I know how not happy you are, I know exactly how much I can manipulate you. How much time are you spending on things that interest you? Do we have to now have a whole conversation about what that might include? How much time, what does 10 represent? Minutes? Hours? A lot? And here they have, again, this snapshot, and it says positive emotions, experiencing and striving to feel a variety of positive emotions: happiness, joy, gratitude, pride, and serenity. Why serenity? Why not contentment? And what is the difference here between happiness and serenity? These are very subjective terms. Adrian says, just a note for the audience, if this were done as a social science research project, it would require oversight from institutional review boards at universities. There is no oversight for these. Thank you so very much for mentioning that. These children are literally being experimented on without any oversight. And the AFT is just pushing it out, going, here, free lessons. Who's it good for? Go use it. And you might say, well, maybe no one's using it. Maybe, but maybe they are. Okay. This is what it says in the notes for the teacher. Overview. Welcome students to their first activity on PERMA Plus Snapshot. Explain to students that this first activity will be a PERMA Plus Snapshot introduction where they would just begin to understand the elements and why it's important to measure well-being. And then I'm looking for the why. I'm looking for the why. Let's see. What do they say? Introduce the concept of measuring happiness and well-being. Explain to students that measuring happiness is just as important as other things we measure in life. No, no, it's not. In fact, the opposite's probably true. Measuring happiness probably makes you pretty dissatisfied. Yeah. I don't check in on myself every day to go, how happy am I? I just do. I live. I get busy. Most people do. Constantly checking and go, am I happy? Am I happy? Am I happy? Am I happy? I don't think that's really a positive thing to do, especially for children. Then it says, have students do an independent reflection on each of the questions above. This was back when we were talking about this, how to measure these questions. Okay. It says, option to have students reflect on one question at a time and share with the class, or reflect on all three and then come together and share with the class. These discussions can also happen in small groups of one-on-one. Nowhere does it say the student can opt out if the student feels uncomfortable, because the student might feel uncomfortable. Then when we get down to the PERMA slide where it said the new theory, introduce the 6 elements, and then it says, now, by the way, you know what mattering stands for? Knowing your purpose. Hi, 8-year-old. Let's talk about whether you know your purpose. Having meaning in the things you're doing day to day, feeling connected to something bigger than ourselves. Whoa, that sounds vaguely religious. Or feeling like you are helpful to others, your community, or the environment. Now we get down to it. Mattering is to others. Do you matter to others? Are you making a difference to others? You see how this goes? You see why this is just the reinvention of social emotional learning? So then we get to the notes for the positive emotions one. This one. Explain to students that they are going to do a deeper dive into each element of PERMA. Starting with positive emotions, read the introduction to positive emotions on the slide above and provide a few examples of when you might experience positive emotions in your day-to-day. I experience joy when it's a beautiful sunny day. I feel pride when my students master a new skill. Why? You didn't do it. They did. I'm just kidding. I mean, you can feel proud of them, but it's just a weird thing to say. All right, moving on. Let's study positive emotions. What do they sound like? What do they look like? What do they feel like? Why are they good for our body? Why are they good for our mind? So the message is pretty clear. You should feel positive emotions. And if you don't, that's bad. That's bad. Now we're going to go over in class what they sound like and what they look like. And if they don't sound and look like that to you, well, that might be bad too. You might be weird. You should change that. They should look and sound to you like they look and sound to other people. Yeah, because what they sound like sounds like a fixed point. What they look like sounds also like a fixed point. And totally devoid of context. Yep. I've known people to have just sit sort of placidly in space like this, and they're feeling very content. But would you read this as a positive emotion? Or would you read it as something else? Okay. So then they go on to write your ideas here. So the student gets a chance to write their ideas. What do positive emotions look like, feel like? Why are they good, etc.? Okay, this is where I get really frustrated. What do you see? Positive emotion, negative emotion. Now, on the surface, you might say, oh, it's a positive emotion. Could be. We don't have the full context, do we? It probably is. But let me show you another example. This boy. Okay. Negative emotion. Now, if we're going to convey to the child that negative emotions are bad for you and you really should be feeling, in order to be well and to have wellness, you shouldn't be having, oh no, this face is not okay. Right? What if he has that face because somebody just told him, you might not be a boy? What if he has that face because somebody tried to encroach on his personal space in an intrusive way and he didn't like it and he's defending his boundaries? It's appropriate, isn't it? Right? So this face could be, you just took my stuff and I don't like that and you need to back off. It could be a rational reaction to something someone else did. But if we tell the children, this face is a negative emotion, this is a sign of lack of wellness, we're lying. Because wellness also includes agency, but I don't see it anywhere in here. It also includes feeling comfortable telling people no. There are a lot of very unwell people out there who cannot say no, so they get taken advantage of all the time. And it causes depression. It causes physical illness. They get ulcers. Sometimes it goes so far as they get seizures and worse, cancer. Have you ever heard of the cancer personality? People who are overly agreeable and give too much of themselves have been shown to have, in certain research studies, higher rates of certain cancers because they are, sure, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Okay. Yes, of course. She was always so happy and so positive. Meanwhile, inside she's dying because she has no time and space for herself, can't say no, feels completely uncomfortable in her own skin, can't assert herself, etc. I know teenagers like this, by the way. Usually they're female, but not always. I know people who decide their coping strategy to get along in the world, and the person I'm thinking of is on the spectrum, by the way, is to mask, because this is what makes you safe. And it says yes when she really means no. And she goes along with things she'd really rather not go along with. And in a couple of cases has put herself in grave danger. Yes. Huh? But positive emotions, well-being, not so much. All right. I hope that was clear. Again, this could be so many things. It's clearly probably a negative emotion, although she could be tired and just like, I'm going to rest my eyes for a minute. I just need to like gather my thoughts, or I'm stuck. I need to think of an idea for this email or this proposal. Let me think about it. I'm deep in thought. Could be that. But we're going to go with negative emotion because we know it's a binary, positive or negative, pick one. We have no other context. So are we really teaching children that emotions are things that have to be felt in accordance with facts, or that we can go on one piece of information and we know? I have such a big problem with this because I truly believe that so much misery, especially amongst children, is the result of not having the right facts and reacting to that. You're not going to have the correct emotion. And by correct, I mean the one that matches the situation if you don't have the right facts. We see this all the time. Somebody does not respond to your text in a timely manner. They leave you on red, as the kids say. They look down, text was read, it says read. They don't respond. Minutes go by, an hour goes by. The kid's freaking out. Teenagers, like, they hate me. They're ghosting me. Oh my God, what did I do? What did I do wrong? They left me on red. Meanwhile, the kid got the text message. It says read because the thing maybe was open and they picked it up. But then as soon as they went to read it, their mom's like, get in here and empty the dishwasher. Put down that phone and come. So they put the phone down and they go and they do the thing. Then they forget. Now they got to do their homework and they got to do something else. A few hours go by. They finally come back to the phone and they pick it up and maybe there's like a huge long, like, I hate you and we aren't friends anymore. And now how dare you, blah, 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 blah. That's been known to happen. Or they just find they're blocked from their friend and like, what would I do? You left me on red and like 5 hours went by. So clearly you can't stand me. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but not really. Did that person have the right facts? No, not at all. By the same token, let's say they're at school, they're out in public, and kid A just got, some negative grade or what, something happened, and they're like looking down and they're feeling like crap and their face looks bad or whatever. And the other kid sees them from a distance, is like, oh, they interpret what it means. They're mad at me. They're, something happened, or there's something, they're upset from something at home, or they're being bullied or whatever. It could be nothing of the sort. And they start to have feelings about it. Instead of learning that, you know what, I don't know what's going on. I see a face, but it looks negative. That's my cue to go ask. That's my cue to be curious. That's my cue to use my words and say, hey, is everything all right? You look a little sad. Is there anything I can do? No, I'm good. I'm really tired. Didn't get any sleep last night. I'm kind of dragging. Now that could be true, or it could be their polite way of saying, I don't want to talk about it. Either way, the person on the other side who's not having the emotion shouldn't have a reaction based on their own personal interpretation. This is how we get to, you're a bigot and you hate me. You're a hater. You are this, you're that, because you did that, or you had a facial expression, or you, whatever. No, you don't get to tell me how I feel. And you certainly don't get to do it based on the limited information of my facial expression. You can do your little body language magic and, try to read that and say, like, I read something. But if you don't check, that's on you. Any reaction you have, any interpretation you have that does not align with reality, or that is too presumptuous and causes a problem for me, guess what I get to do? I can even freaking lie. If you push it too far that you know me better than I know me and decide to act upon that, like, Miss So-and-so, I think that Deb is depressed because I saw her looking sad earlier. And I think that you should do something. And maybe you need to go to the counselor because I saw her being very sad. And I think her wellness is at risk. Can you do something? So now what? The counselor's involved, somebody else involved. They're all descending upon the kid. Are you all right? One of your friends reported that by the way, this is another scenario I heard about from a parent where one kid was so gung-ho to use their little skills of reporting, see something, say something. I think this person's depressed, that they went and like ratted out a friend who was just like tired and having a bad day. And suddenly there's all kinds of interventions going on. And the kid is furious because their whole day was upset. Now there's scrutiny. Their parents are getting called. All these things are happening. Do you think when she found out that it was a friend who reported on her mood to the appropriate authorities, that she was happy about it and grateful? Or maybe get the F away from me and don't speak to me again? Yeah, this is not a way to have really good relationships. Good relationships are built on trust and a certain amount of respect for boundaries and curiosity. Where's curiosity in this? About, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm not going to assume. No, lots of assuming going on here. And another one. We don't know what just happened. Yes, I got an A and my teacher didn't catch me cheating. Awesome. My dad's not mad that I wrecked the car. We don't know. We have no idea. None whatsoever. Why is she happy? Is she happy? We don't know. What's he just hearing? Oh my God, the stock market's in free fall. Ah! Or, you've got to be kidding me. The cat ran away again. I mean, we don't have any information. Negative emotion, maybe, or rational response to an irrational situation that's happening. They're not automatically bad. It may be a negative emotion, but it's not bad. We can infer sadness, but why? We don't know. This one cracked me up. Everybody's going to sit there and go, oh, aren't they having a great time? They're having a great time. They're laughing. It's hysterical, whatever. What if, do you feel the same way about them if you find out that they're giggling and laughing because somebody just got, you know, somebody who supports a candidate that they don't like just got arrested? Look, they just got arrested. Could be that. You don't know. It's probably not, but you know what I'm saying. Context matters. Tooth could be coming in. It hurts. She stubbed her toe, maybe. I don't know. Is her wellness upset because she's having a normal physical reaction to pain? We don't know. And it goes on. Engagement is having interests and pursuits that captivate us. Did you even know what captivate meant? And how much pressure is this? Do you know how many kids don't have this? They don't have an interest, or even, like they really don't have one that captivates them, resulting in the regular experiences of flow and personal growth. No pressure or anything. No pressure. Just, if you don't have this, then your wellness is impaired. But, you should work on that. I remember this. I do remember from childhood. It was pretty big when I was a teenager to like, find your passion, find your passion, find your passion. You guys remember that? And I remember thinking like, I know, what if I don't? Is it lost? Am I broken? What if I don't have a passion? What if I have lots of little interests, or, some that I'm really interested in, but I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm passionate about them. I don't want to do them for a living, but I really think they're cool today. And the next week I changed my mind. I mean, I felt like there was something wrong with me. I truly did. I went all the way to college thinking something is wrong with me. I don't have a passion. I don't have a thing that I want to do every single day, or that really, gets me out of bed in the morning all by itself. Didn't have that. I had lots of things I was interested in, but nothing that captivated me or resulted in the regular experiences of flow and personal growth. And it was a big blow, honestly, to my sense of self-esteem. Nobody ever said, that's fine. Not everybody has that. A lot of people do. Some people don't. Some people are much more interested to be, interested in lots of little things for a little while and then move on. And that's okay. That's you. That's what makes you you. What happened to that? Nope. Sorry, no wellness for you. Now, what does it sound like? They do this for every single one, by the way. What does it sound like? What does it look like? And not just for you, but for others. Oh my goodness. So he's so engaged. Couldn't possibly fake this. She's not engaged. I say she, could be he. Are they engaged? The teacher looks like she's at least LARPing engagement. I don't know. We're smiling with a pencil. Are we posing for a picture, or are we engaged? You cannot. I'm sorry. This is the one that actually irks me as much as mattering. You cannot tell looking at a picture. You cannot tell looking from the outside in whether someone is truly engaged in what they're doing. Takes a lot more information. Same here. All of these. We're going on looks alone. She could just be tired. She could have been sitting there for an hour, actively engaged in something really interesting, and now she's finally sleepy. We don't know. Relationships, connecting to others in positive, authentic, do they know what these words mean? Trusting relationships, building an environment in which you and others can flourish. Wait, that's new. That's new. So in order to be in a relationship, I have to build the environment in which the other person can flourish. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. How is a kid going to do that? Parents can barely do that. We want to do it. We try to do it, but it's sometimes elusive because our children are individuals. So we think we're building an environment in which they can flourish. It's kind of our job because we're actually their parents, not just their friends. But we fail as often as we succeed, because sometimes they just don't flourish in that environment. They need something else, and we have to go find out what that is. But imagine putting this on a child, that you're going to have a positive, authentic, trusting relationship if you can build an environment in which you and the other person can flourish. Now, if they phrased it in such a way as to say where neither person feels bad or threatened or something, but isn't that part of trusting? Why is this necessary, the second part? This is where I think they keep inserting obligation to others, obligation to others. You want relationships, you're going to have to take care of people. It's not always the case. When you're a parent, yes. When you're a spouse, yes. Not so much when you have a friend. It's not your job to take care of them. Same thing. What does it sound like, look like, blah, 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 this formulaic deal. This, I guess, is relationships. This is not a good relationship. I don't even know how this is a relationship at all. What is this? Again, what are they doing? Okay, siblings pose for pictures like this all the time, and then 5 seconds later, they're pulling each other's hair. Like that. Or that. This is all you need to see a good relationship? No wonder we have all these Hollywood couples where it's like, "Oh my God, they're so in love." 5 minutes later, they're splitting up. That was a picture. You don't know. You can't tell what's going on from a picture. Even this, they could be best buddies and they're arguing over who's a better quarterback. You have no idea. That's the easiest thing you could ever do. Doesn't mean jack. All right, mattering. Creating purpose, passion, and fulfillment by connection and serving something larger than yourself. I wonder what that could be, you guys. What could the serving something larger than yourself be? What are the teacher notes for this one? Explain to students that they are going to do a deeper dive into mattering. Read the introduction to mattering on the slide above and provide a few examples of when you might experience mattering in your day-to-day. When I volunteer for a local organization, when I'm helpful to others. That's when you matter. I like to believe that my life matters, even if I don't do any of those things. That I matter to the people who love me. I don't think that, believe it or not, I actually don't think that my children and my husband only think I matter because I do stuff for them. That's very transactional. And while all relationships are a little bit transactional, that's still the idea that you're in service to others in order to matter is a bit much. What does that say for the person who is disabled and can't be of service to anyone? Do they suddenly not matter? It's a fair question. Right. See, A. Baker says, I matter to Jesus. But I'm pretty sure they're not allowing the students to talk about that. They're talking about being of service to others right here on earth. And you're quite right. There might be a student who says, I matter to Jesus, or I matter to God, or I matter to my dog, my cat. I don't necessarily serve them, but I matter. Now, to the extent that it contributes to your sense of contentment and feelings of well-being, knowing that your life matters does do that. However, I would rather that we model for our children and even teach them explicitly that this can happen. You can feel that way without other people's validation. Your own accomplishments, your own love of something. Like I said, whether it's a pet, a sibling, just nature. You don't have to do anything. Your life matters. Your life has value. And you can believe that even if you're just effective at taking care of yourself. And I don't mean pleasing yourself in some hedonistic way. I mean, if you get up each day and you take care of your own needs and you feed yourself and you clothe yourself, and then someday when you're an adult, you go out and you earn your money and you pay the bills and you are self-sustaining in an honorable way, and you work hard and you enjoy your life, you read a good book, you listen to music, you matter. You don't have to have other people agree. That's not what it depends on. And it's really kind of a scary message to say that you do. And do we wonder why there are so many kids being like, use my pronouns, agree with me, tell me on this. I identify as X and you have to recognize it. Their entire sense of well-being depends on it. Nobody's ever told them it's okay if everybody disagrees with you. It is totally fine if everybody scowls at you. That's their problem. If you don't matter a damn to anybody in your class, but your mom loves you, that's important. Or to A. Baker's point of view, if you were walking this earth saying, Jesus loves me, and that's good enough, well, it sounds like the school will be like, no, it's not. Why isn't it? If that child believes that, and that gets them through the day and gets them through life, and who's to take that away from them? This bothers me. And I'm sure there'll be people say, you're overthinking it. Am I? Or are they overthinking how to teach kids what matters and that they matter? Why do we need to do this at all? All right, moving on. Mattering, blah, blah, blah. What does it look like? What does it sound like? And then here's how we show what mattering looks like in pictures. So far, that's what we need other people. Well, I don't even understand this one. Not mattering. So he's lying on his couch watching television and he's not mattering. That's a value judgment. Straight up. Straight up, that's a value judgment. Everybody has had days where they're like, I just want to lie on the couch and be a slug. You're not mattering right now. I see you. Go matter. Go do something for other people. Oh, look. Even the youngest can get involved being of service. So she's not mattering. Maybe she mattered 5 minutes ago in the meeting where she shared her opinion and it's going to make the company lots of money. And now she's just blowing off steam. You don't know she doesn't matter. This is ridiculous. Oh, but she matters because she's helping someone else. Unbelievable. No judgment at all. No feeling like crap because of that time you lay around and took a break. Accomplishment, setting and pursuing goals, feeling a sense of hope about what is possible and pride in reaching new boundaries. How about, okay. So what does achievement, what are the notes on achievement? This I got to see what the teachers say about it. Explain to students, right? We're going to do a deeper dive. That's what they say. Read the introduction to accomplishment on the slide above and provide a few examples of how you might experience. So everything's from the teacher's perspective. This is how I think. This is what I feel. This is what it looks like to me. No room at all for, indoctrination or seeding what they should think. Why? Oh, it's giving them examples. Or it's setting a standard for something that it shouldn't have a standard. Unless, of course, you want to make an objective accomplishment, like getting an A equals you got a 90 or better. Now we get to the health one. We'll go through all of these, blah, blah, blah. This is what achievement is, apparently. This is what achievement looks like. Or accomplishment, sorry. This is not accomplishment. You don't know that. Also, you don't know that. No idea. Maybe her accomplishment was to get out of bed. She pulled a double shift last night as an RN and she didn't think she'd be able to get out of bed today, but she did. And now she's just taking a break before she cleans up her room. You have no idea. All right. Nutrition, movement, and sleep fuel our bodies and minds to get us ready to pursue each of the other elements. Well, that's the whole reason we're healthy. Did you not know? The main reason to be healthy is to pursue all those other things, not just because being healthy is good all on its own. Yeah. Enhancing our well-being. What does it look like? This is apparently what health looks like. This is what health looks like. This apparently is not, this is unhealthy. Unbelievable. All right. So that's this presentation. Now, strangely, it's not letting me go past here. It went to slide 100, but there is more. There is more. And it looks like I'm going to have to, this is very strange because it's not showing all of them. Hold on a second. So what I'm going to do is go to this. It's the actual presentation. Here. It didn't all load for some reason. So here we have my flourishing day. This is what comes up. You can see after all that other stuff. Each and every day, you have the choice to make it a flourishing day. First, you have to know the key ingredients to happiness. PERMA Plus. Then you can start thinking about ways to add a little more of each element to your days, to start thinking about a day in the last year that was really awesome. To think about a day that was really awesome, a day that just made you really happy. Tell your partner about that day. What PERMA Plus ingredients helped it be so great? Then your partner will ask questions about each element. Then they will pry into your emotions and you will share back and forth while other people watch. It's insane. And then here's the vocabulary. Again, please remember, this is directed at 8-year-olds to start with. What positive emotions did you feel during your really awesome day? Circle all that apply: joy, gratitude, amusement, hope, interest, inspiration, serenity, love, pride, and awe. And how are we defining these terms? What activities do you feel most interested in on your really awesome day? So this is my flourishing day. My flourishing day. Why does the school want this? Think about that for a second. Why do schools feel the need to do this? And why would this not be something that parents would just want to model and get? I mean, how did generations of people learn to flourish, learn to be happy, learn to be well, and so on without this? Because we know they did. We weren't, I mean, in fact, today we know, again, Abigail Schreier has done the research. We know that kids today are less happy, less content, flourishing less than any prior generation. And yet they have more therapy, more SEL, more navel gazing, more of this neuroticism than any prior generation. And they're miserable. They don't have well-being. The more we put pressure on them to be well, be happy, what is wrong with you? The worse they feel. This is what happiness looks like. So what's the message? Do this. And everyone will get off my case. They won't understand why they come into my room one day but this is what happiness looks like. We didn't even know anything was wrong. I can't imagine why. Well, maybe because you made the kid feel so bad about evincing any negative emotions that they just stopped. They went numb. They got the message. Don't be weird. Don't be weird. That's the word of the month, isn't it? Don't be weird. Because if you're weird, that's really bad. That's so bad. People will, grown-ups, grown adults will make fun of you if you're weird, if they think you're weird. People on the news will say you're weird. So be not weird. Definitely figure out what not weird is and be that. Definitely be that, because then you'll at least be safe. I don't know about this flourishing thing, but you know what a flourishing day will be? Nobody calling me weird and being able to successfully fool everybody into thinking everything's great. Yay! Accomplishment. Do I matter yet? PERMA snapshot in movies. Are you guys ready? I know you are. How would you rate Simba's well-being in the scene? Look, I can drag it. I can even move it. Look at that. I can move the slider. How would you rate Simba's well-being in the scene? His well-being. So we need to know, does he have positive emotions? Is he engaged? Does he have a good relationship? Does he matter? Does he matter? right? And does he have accomplishment? Do you see any accomplishment here? And how about his health? Well, he's a little overweight, so I don't know about the health part. But what do you think? High well-being score? We should be scoring other people, by the way, just from the outside, just by looking at them. What about this? How would you rate Carl and Russell's well-being in this scene? Well, Russell's having a grand old time, but Carl's not so happy. What do you think? His well-being, good relationship, certainly an accomplishment to not be falling from the sky and breaking every bone in his body, I guess. But he looks that's a pretty negative emotion on his face. Oh, I don't know. Do you think he matters? I think he kind of matters because, he's holding on to how- I don't know. What do you guys think? How's his well-being in the scene? Because that's how we do this now. How about Shrek? Good score? What do you think? Elf's well-being? Good. Yeah. All right. How about the beast? I don't know. The petals are falling. It's not good. Not good, you guys. And then we have Charlie's well-being. He's got the golden ticket. See, we know what's going to happen next. So, I don't know. Today, tomorrow, I mean, he's got a magic wand. He's going to wizard school. Some people would consider that to be pretty awesome. But he's also got, death threats and a contract out on him. So it's probably not so good. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, look, his heart is 3 times bigger. So the Grinch is having a good day. Oh, poor Wicked Witch. What do you think her well-being is in this scene? Yeah. Moana. Her well-being is good. So they go through all of these and then create your own scene. I'm so excited. Now, this is the part where it gets really creepy. Positive emotion examples of what ratings would be. That we have a rubric. Aren't you excited? They're giving the kids a rubric for emotions, right? A rating of 1 might sound like frustrated, sad, low energy, anxious, or stressed in the blue, yellow, or red zone, whatever those are. A rating of 5 might be neutral, okay, but not great, not easily amused by jokes, occasionally in the blue, yellow, or red zone. A rating of 10, happy, excited about the day, smiling, lots of laughter, proud, easy to trigger laughter and joy. Again, I was a kid. Maybe I'm making this too personal, but I like to believe there's some people out there in the audience who can identify who was not a smiley, happy, bouncy child. It wasn't my personality. There's no room for that here, is there? I was I don't know what you might have called me. Maybe even a little bit phlegmatic. Okay. My dad used to say I was caustic, but I don't, only when you piss me off. But I just was kind of flat. I was neither happy nor sad when in those moments. When I was happy, you saw it, like really happy, but I didn't walk around like, in fact, it used to piss me off, something fierce when people go, smile, smile, smile. You should smile more. You should smile more. Why aren't you smiling? I remember by the time I got to be a young adult and I heard that for the 10 millionth time, somebody come up to me and say, why aren't you smiling? You should be smiling. I actually said to them, and I was really proud of myself, to be honest with you. This was a big moment. This was one of my flourishing moments. I said to this guy, I was not put on this earth for your entertainment. There you have it. I wasn't. It is not my obligation to smile at you. And P.S., it's something that gets said to women 10,000 times more than men. Can you imagine going up to a boy or a young man who's just sitting like this, listening attentively to something, or even just standing against the wall at a party and surveying the happenings or whatever? Can you imagine walking up? Why aren't you smiling? You're not smiling. You should smile more. No, you can't imagine it because it doesn't happen. This emphasis on show us happiness is about making other people feel more comfortable and making it easier to manage groups of people. Like I said at the outset, how are they going to make sure we're happy when we own nothing? They're going to teach us it is unacceptable. You are unwell if you have this low rating. We're going to teach you how to rank yourself and others because they're going to need help with this whole. That person there has an attitude problem. And this is how we make sure that people, at the very least, pretend that they are happy when they are not. The message will be clear. Do it or else. Then we have, those student 1, student 2. Now they're going to test the kids. Learn the anchor words. We're going to really ingrain this like dog training for children. Engagement. Bored, disinterested, escaping a lot, frustrated, asking to be all done. Couldn't have anything to do with the situation is boring. It's not interesting. Escaping is the only thing they can do to stay sane. They are frustrated because they're held prisoner and wherever they are because they're children. And asking to be all done is a rational reaction to an irrational situation that is like prison. Interested, engaged, paying attention on, asking for more, no need for external motivators. Again, the message is clear. This is good. This is bad. So imagine if this is you all the time. You're in school and this is how you feel. You get the message. I'm unwell. Can you imagine how many kids will go home after a lesson like this going, I'm sick. I'm unwell. Even if they don't tell anybody, I'm unwell. What do you mean you're unwell? Well, I'm really bored at school. I don't have a lot of friends. I don't really like to smile. I don't smile a lot. There's nothing really to smile about. And I'm not doing well. I'm not getting good grades. So I'm unwell. My wellness score is very low. I don't know what to do because I guess I could do this, but it doesn't feel right. And that's if they tell someone. What if they don't tell their parents? And then we're getting to relationships. Not interested in others, spend a lot of time alone and lonely, got into a fight with someone. Okay, leaving out the got into a fight with someone part, that describes me as a small child. I wasn't particularly interested in other people. I spent a lot of time alone, especially when I was very small, when I was really young, all the way till probably 6th or 7th grade. I preferred my own company. Part of it was a coping mechanism because I spent a lot of time in the hospital alone. And if I weren't that kind of person, I would have been miserable. So, or maybe I just naturally was, or maybe I got used to it. Who knows? It doesn't matter. I didn't go crazy being locked away in a pediatric ward of a hospital where I spent a lot of my very young years. And it was okay. Didn't bother me. Read a lot of books, did a lot of puzzles. But when I went into school, thankfully, thank goodness, nobody said, what's wrong? Why aren't you with the other children? They did do that to my daughter. My eldest daughter was very similar to me in that regard. She kept to herself. She was quite shy. She didn't really initiate conversation with other people because she was perfectly content to be on her own. She loved to read books. And constantly we're very worried about her. Very worried, very worried. She spends all kind of time on her lunch. She eats alone at lunch. We're worried. Something is wrong. Like nothing is wrong. You're making it wrong. You're making something wrong about it. Just leave her be. But she got the message because the kids pick up on that when adults are like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have any friends? She kept getting dragged into offices. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And she'd call me. She's like, am I not okay? Is there something wrong with me? What is wrong with me? I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. You're fine. Ignore them. No room for personality. No room for temperament. No room for individuality. Oh, right. I forgot. That's not allowed anymore. Yeah. Remember the whole point of SEL is to strip you of individuality, to tell you the right way to be and the wrong way to be for the collective. And of course, health. You're going to talk to an 8-year-old about their recurring GI issues. That we're going to discuss this in class. This is so fucked up, you guys. I'm sorry. All right. I'm going to stop the screen share and go to some of your comments because I think you get the gist of what crazy. I mean, this is a fresh hell that is beyond what I can even process. Okay. So going back to the beginning. Soundism says provide a flourishing environment means going along with whatever delusions they choose to come up with. Don't stifle them, help them flourish. Yep. Oh, something wasn't big enough. I'm sorry. I hope, let me know what it was that you didn't see, and I'll see if I can bring it back. And yes, the state is their religion. I don't even know if it's the state, it's the collective. Whatever the collective is, the Borg, the Matrix. And if for now, it's the state. But I think you could replace state with whatever. I mean, it's just the ultimate goal is to make it clear to students that individualism, more importantly, is bad, is a problem, is problematic. Unless, because you're probably going to say, well, wait a minute, what about all these people like, I'm a cat, I'm a dog, I'm a tree, that seems pretty individualistic. Yeah. But what does it do? That just creates opportunities for other people who are normies to matter by accepting you and including you. So you actually, at least for now, are creating opportunities for people who otherwise wouldn't really matter to matter. It's a give and take. It's a positive relationship. But I think there might come a day where that gets phased out. Where conformity becomes much more important than these little idiosyncratic identities. The identities serve a purpose right now. And that purpose is sort of the dialectic where you have the people with the weird identities, which triggers the people who don't, majority don't, to say, what the hell, huh? And I don't necessarily want to say, oh my God, what is wrong with you? You are too individual. You care about yourself. You're not under the collective, blah, 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 blah. Terrible bigot. Train these people to be like, I have to matter. I have to accept all this stuff. And having created your reason to shame these people who are otherwise functioning just fine. Now we got to break them so we can fix them to be givers till it hurts. Now, when these people get uppity and go, I want more because I'm used to it. And now they're accepting me and I have no purpose anymore. Oh, yeah, you need to fall in line. Yeah, we're good now. Thanks. Now you need to get back in the collective. It will happen. I promise you it will happen. Yeah, the scene of the kid, he could have been turned off by the show or just woke up. You could read those pictures so many ways. Nutrition, they care so much about that. Look at the poison in brand name food. And in the school lunch, right? Dissident teacher says, oh my God, the vocabulary, right? This vocabulary, do these kids even know what these words mean? It is a weird form of religion. Very, very weird. Dissident teacher says this is the result of too many semi-competent adults employed at the district office. That's at the bottom of the weird food chain. Like there are completely incompetent people running things much higher up, as in giving out grant money that creates these organizations and alliances. People got paid to do this. Probably a lot of money. And somebody paid them. Somebody who presumably got the money from somewhere else or earned the money, we hope, or if not, took it from taxpayers. And that's really bad. I'm not sure what I was preaching about, but thank you. A. Baker says, because our pagan federal government wants children to worship humans, this is humanist ideology. I don't think they want the kids to worship humans. I think they want them to worship the state or this sort of esoteric idea of the collective, because we can never really define the collective. It's always just whatever we say it is. It's just not you. It's everyone, but not you. That's really the key. And as opposed to the major religions, especially, Judeo-Christian philosophy, where individuals still believe that they were made in God's image, they're unique and have unique special souls, and they're, it's not about some Borg, right? never forget that Marx wanted to create a new religion. Like his idea was to make the religion of the collective, of the group, and that no individual would have any more value than any other, or would have value unto him or herself. They could be just interchangeable. And I really think that's what it is to erase the individual. Um Weird is a word from witchcraft. Yes, I know that. Isn't it interesting? And on top of that, like I said, they've been using it for the last week to label people their political enemies. And I find that interesting because not only does it sound like middle school, you're weird, but what are kids hearing? They pay attention when they see the adults calling each other weird. And then you go into a classroom and you teach stuff like this, and there will be children, I promise you, lots of them who don't rate, especially if they're autistic. So if they're actually showing this to autistic kids, that's why I said I'd be like, and you think this is helpful? What? I would liken it to abuse. You're essentially telling the autistic kids they're weirder than they even might have thought they were. There are plenty of autistic people walking around who don't think they're weird. That even if they're diagnosed, they're like, what? This is just how I live. This is just who I am. This is fine. They wouldn't think otherwise unless you told them. Unless you said, no, no, you're really different. And this is weird. This is how you're supposed to be. This is what relationships are like. This is what showing positive emotions is supposed to look like. Now you're emphasizing that they're different. And this helps them. How exactly? Isn't this after he's tricked into believing he's responsible for the death of his father and has been exiled from his home? Yes, exactly. That is true. If you're talking about Harry Potter, absolutely. He's sad. Let's see. What ages this gets presented to children who are 8 to 17 years of age. And she says, I was absolutely not bubbly. That came later. I was a little shy. Yeah, a lot of kids. There's no room for shyness. There's no room for being, for sort of holding back on showing your emotions till you really, really trust people, which, by the way, is extremely healthy. Children have as their number one goal to remain safe because they're children, especially the younger they are. And when they're away from their parents, even more so. Like I said, there's that gut, that sense that we have to greater or lesser degrees, but it's considered actually quite healthy to tune in to that feeling in your body that says, I don't know you and I don't really trust you. And I'm not going to open up and share my innermost thoughts and feelings with you until I do. And that can take a while. And it can take a really long time for some kids, especially kids on the spectrum. So to deny them that agency over their own feelings and their privacy is an invasion, in my opinion. Anne says, I've told people the same. I was not put here for your entertainment. And then I had to do it again in a business meeting when I was working in a big company, where you have those giant meetings with lots of people. And I got that same garbage. Why don't you smile? You need to smile more, blah, 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 blah. And I think the way I put it then was, I'm not going to make you feel better about your bad idea. Because that's what we were talking about. We were talking about an idea that one person was presenting. A bunch of people didn't really like it. A fair number of people on the we don't really like your idea side were female. And I was watching something happen in real time. I was watching my colleagues, my fellow female colleagues, kind of doing this. Like, they had said things, said, well, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just don't think it's really that good an idea. And I mean, we should probably, blah, 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 things that men don't do. Men don't say, I don't know, they don't do this. Right. And then there's Deb, and I'm sitting there like, face like this, because I have absolutely no filter. And I'm kind of going, and he looks at me and says, what's your problem? I said, well, I don't think it's going to work. And the guy's like, what do you mean it's not going to work? I said, well, reason. I don't think it's going to work. I even got up and drew something on the whiteboard. And I said, I just don't think it's going to work. I think we need to go with this other idea, et cetera. And it was later in the conversation, I get, I'm sitting there and I'm like, same face. I didn't really realize I was doing it, but it's like, do you have to look on your face? Why don't you smile? Whatever. And that's when I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and smile to make you feel better about your bad idea. It's not my job. My job is to get things done and do them properly. I was not appreciated in that meeting, to say the least. What do you want from me? That's my personality. Now, if they wanted to pull me aside afterwards, as my account manager did, is you can't do that. He says to me, I said, okay, what can't I do? I mean, you have no diplomacy. I'm like, we're a team. What happened to we're a team? We're all on the team. That's not the client. This is internal. We're a team. What happened to a team? If we're a team, I should be able to tell the truth because we do have to go tell the client and we can't go in there half-baked with an idea that isn't going to work. Why can't I say that? It's just, you can. It's going to offend people. So, well, sorry that somebody's offended by the truth. Meanwhile, I'd seen countless men in the same situation say, no, that's not going to work. We can't do that because blah, 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 blah. Do the identical behaviors to what I did. And it's fine when they do it. I'd seen men get up in meetings and just like erase everything somebody else had written down. Like, no, let me tell you why that's not going to work. And they do the thing. And nobody's allowed to go, I was really offended and that's not really going to work. And you might say, well, they do now, Deb. They do now. Women will say they offended me and that was misogynistic. And that's not the point I'm trying to make. I didn't do that, by the way. I didn't go to my account manager and say, he was mean and misogynistic. I just said, why can't I behave that way? That's all I asked for. I just said, if he can do it, then I should be able to do it. Period. Full stop. I don't want to complain like he's complaining. I just want to be able to do what he's doing because, it's necessary sometimes. What he did was fine. What I did was fine. But apparently it's not so fine. Being agreeable, demonstrating positive emotions and good relationships is the right way to be. Adrian says, go watch the clip from Anna Krylov discussing sluggish schizophrenia. It was used to punish dissidents in the USSR. No one who was mentally ill could disagree with the party. How many people are going to be diagnosed with various forms of mental illness or even be told they're on the spectrum when they're not, and sent for this kind of re-education because it makes it more challenging for people to manage them if they're not giddy all the time, or at least consume with appearing giddy. I believe children would learn more from reading poetry about emotions. I know mine did. Yes, absolutely. 100%. You learn by actually doing and being involved. Soundism says, don't give up the fight. I'm taking off. Just got done with work. Okay. Bye. Thank you. The grant money is a big deal. Yes. Thank you, Adrian. And then Soundham says, getting rid of God and religion in the collective is what will lead to all of our rights being abolished. How they come from God if there is no God. Obviously, there are differences of opinion on this. What I would say is slightly different in that making the state the God. Because there are people obviously who go through their whole lives not necessarily believing in God and they don't bother anybody and and so on. The only reason it becomes relevant is because the state is deciding which God you're going to have or none, right? And they're deciding what values and character traits they want your children to have and demonstrate for everyone in the whole society. And that's a problem. That's making the state the God. So there's not really room for your particular values and what you want to pass on to your children, which I do believe is your sovereign right, even if I disagree with the choices that you've made. And by disagree, I don't mean like I'm vehemently opposed. I just mean like we don't have the same beliefs. Okay. But I do still think it's absolutely your right to raise your children in the beliefs that you hold. And as long as those don't come for my rights and trample upon my beliefs, I don't care. The only reason any of this matters to any of us is that we're having our rights trampled by the government. The government's making all these decisions for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't care, would we? They're also using our money to do it, to put They're using our money to pay for children, ours and other people's, to be trained to hate us in many cases. And that's why it matters. But I don't know that we could go so far as to say it's because they're not putting God in the schools, or it's because as a society we're rejecting God, because I don't think that's true, actually. I think the state is making itself the God, and then individuals are having to, you know, work overtime to maintain their beliefs separately and to deprogram their children from believing that the state is God, if that's not what they want. And I don't think anyone should want that, actually. Tony Baloney says, Klaus Schwab, the real Dr. Evil, you own nothing can be. It's true. Adrian says, the looks on my face are going to be me to those. Yeah, exactly. Carib says, I smiled and bounced behind closed doors, masked every kind of abuse. We are teaching kids to be shallow. Absolutely. That's what I first thought. That was absolutely my first thought when I saw all of this. I was like, this is abusive. This is what abusers want. Well, not every abuser, but one of the things that abusers do is they not only tell you you're to blame for your feelings, even after they've just abused the hell out of you. The fact that you're sad, the fact that you're crying, the fact that you are angry, whatever, is like, that's your fault. Like, you made them do the thing. And so now your negative emotion is your own fault because you wouldn't be feeling it if you didn't make them hurt you. All these different things. And then to make matters worse, they tell you to stop crying. They tell you they don't want to see your frowny face. They tell you to better put a smile on. You better dry those tears. You better not show anybody else you've been crying. It's abusive to tell someone how they should feel in a given situation, or that negative emotions are uniformly bad. We have them for a reason. We have fear for a reason. We have anger for a reason. The key is making sure that those emotions align with reality. There are plenty of kids walking around right now viciously angry for no freaking good reason, right? They're angry about things going on thousands of miles away, happening to other people that they know nothing about. They're angry because they think the earth is going to burn up in less than 12 years, and they're incorrect. They're angry at their parents because they think discipline of any sort is abuse. They're full of anger that is irrational. But I think a child should be angry that somebody says, tell me all your feelings publicly here in class. And if you don't, we're going to have a problem. That should instigate anger and frustration and feelings of resentment and fear, because it's grooming. Let's see. Max says, it's like when people ask stupid questions, like, does this dress make me look fat? My answer is always, no, it's you're fat and it makes you look fat. Ouch. But yeah, that'd be a good example of no filter. I just usually, when people ask me questions like that, I get a little annoyed, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'll say things like, why would you put me in that position? That's a no-win question. It's a no-win question. I'll say, why? Just, so you think I'm fat? I'm like, no, you put me in a position where nothing I say is going to be the right thing. If I say no, you might not believe me. You clearly doubt that you look okay, or you wouldn't be asking me. All that matters is what you think. So now you're making how you feel my responsibility, and I don't want that responsibility. So please don't do that anymore. Thanks. And we don't teach our kids that either. We don't teach them to stick up for themselves against people who would do that to them and make them the guardians of their emotional health. There are too many codependents as it is. We have cluster B, narcissists, and borderlines, and they're codependents and flying monkeys. That's what we're creating. Tony says, we don't own money because the Fed owns it. And we saw that today, didn't we? And we don't own our houses because property. Exactly. Adrian says, my internal monologue lately, take your equity and shove it up your ass. Yes. I'm about to say, take your wellness and shove it up your ass too. Tony says, people may not even own themselves. For example, if genes are patentable and the ouchie change people's genes, are they not now owned? Oh, you mean like those what you call it? What's it called? The seeds up in Canada from the company that made the rapeseed or canola. and they genetically modified them all. And then they blew onto other people's land, and that corrupted and took over genetically all the other seeds. And now they claim to own the other farmers' land because their seeds were growing on their land. That's a true story. And so that's not as far-fetched, you guys, as you might think. Yeah, like the seeds. I remember that story. I was freaked out for a long time. Like, how can they do that? But they did. And farmers lost their land. There was one farmer who fought back for a long, long, long time. But Monsanto, that's what it was, Monsanto. So before we check out for the evening, I did save a couple things in my bookmarks that I thought were still relevant to this whole topic, actually, ironically, even though they weren't literally related. They just sort of capture the same essence of what we're talking about. I'm going to make this a lot smaller and bring it up thusly. Okay. So what we have here is James Lindsay saying personal ESG scores incoming. Buying a gun, alcohol, or even clothing will affect your overall ESG score. Not only will your purchases matter, there's that word matter, but who you purchase from will be done in the name of sustainability. Two different sources pictured. So this is overseas, so not currently yet in the United States, but Metro Bank prevents gender critical parents group from opening an account. They have the wrong opinions. You can't open an account. And then this one, you may know all about your credit score, but an individual ESG score is still rather new. Many mainstream financial institutions are creating a new platform that is centered on ESG scores. In addition to creating this platform, their lending guidelines are also getting an update that includes new rules that will tie your individual ESG score to your ability to secure lending. So you're starting to see how being able to rank yourself and rate yourself according to your well-being and your happiness, and using these little dials and sliders and 1 to 5, 1 to 10 rubrics and all that, pretending that these subjective things are somehow objective, is all about feeding into the same system and training our kids early on to be okay with this, or at least to believe this is just how the world works. I'm not entitled to just be me in the world. I don't have individual rights. People can sit in judgment and make decisions about whether I may or may not exist, or ironically flourish, unless I toe the line, unless I feel the right way, have the right kind of relationships, matter enough, give enough. This is all training. This is just getting them used to it. Just like having cameras everywhere is teaching them, and not to mention the apps on their phones and all of the things, teaching them how to be desensitized to the surveillance state. This is a different kind of surveillance. Surveilling your own emotions, learning how to do it, and learning how to mask. You could almost give them credit that maybe they care, that they don't want kids who might struggle with hiding their true feelings to get caught up and have a low credit score. Can't have that. We won't want them to be punished too much. Let's give them every best shot at being able to get that loan someday because they didn't offend somebody with their negative emotions. So we'll teach them how to mask if they can't do it on their own. It's almost tempting to think it's very benevolent of them. And then we have this. On a personal level, just as much information is used to create a picture of who you are and how your personal actions influence the world around you. Buying a gun, alcohol, or even clothing will affect your overall ESG score. Not only will your purchases matter, there's that word again, but who you purchase from and how they do business. And what else is going on with this? Well, I found an article. Now, admittedly, I don't understand it as much as I ought because I have to really go through it. But there is evidence, if you follow Allison McDowell on Wrench the Gears, there is evidence that this is all about the blockchain. And she's talking about a video, and it says OER, this is Open Education Resources. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's just, they talk a big game about they're available to anybody. Anybody can access them and use them for teaching, and students can. No, it's so that they can give your kid a device and then feed them, different apps to go on. And here's your lesson for the day. And oh, you better check in and do your exercises. Go, we need to see some wellness points. And the kid's like jumping around, like, okay, I did my thing. Oh, look, I got my badge. And they get their little badge. Like our entire lives are going to be like Eagle Scouting. Do you have enough badges? Okay, you can buy that thing. You can go on vacation. You can get that job. They'll have all these skill badges and all these little badges, and you got to accrue badges. And of course, this will cost money too. You want to get the best badges, you got to do the things and you got to check off the boxes. And we're not going to be evaluated face to face, person to person, idiosyncratically. There won't be that. It will be badges stored in the blockchain. Every last thing you've ever done, ever said, ever, whether you have enough or not enough, you're going to be constantly compared to other people in a nameless, faceless way. And she says, I know most people are not going to make time to listen to the whole thing. So I pulled 2 short teaser clips. One is about the OER being blockchain badges, not Bible study paper printouts, as some Texas representatives would have you believe. So they keep thinking like, look, it's open education resources. You can get like all these free printouts to do your homeschooling. It's gonna be great. No, what it's really going to be is an app, as she says. The other is my frustration over the Diane Ravitch Badass Teachers Association, brain boxing, and the perils of manufactured heroes and structured teaming. I'm indebted to both. Anyway, she goes on to talk about it. Jeff Yass, billionaire trader. Here you have all these little, interconnected things about these tech people. But what they are essentially doing is getting into blockchain digital badging of people, and they're getting our kids used to it this way with these little ratings. And the only reason, if you think about it, the only reason that you would get involved in trying to make happiness or wellness measurable is if you needed to store it digitally. Why would you need that otherwise? Think about it. All right, so that was that. And then this came up. This is the Secretary of Education. Kids can't be what they can't see. That's why the Biden-Harris administration is investing in a diverse teacher pipeline that looks like our great country. So remember we saw the little, what does happiness look like? What does wellness look like? What does this look like? Well, apparently our great country looks a certain way too. And there's my comment. This is a racist lie. Why don't you just say what you really mean? White teachers can't teach Black and brown kids and must be replaced with Black and brown teachers, even if there aren't enough who are qualified to teach. Oh yeah, and sorry, blind kids, you're screwed. Because if you can't see it, can't be it. I just have to wonder about Orville and Wilbur. They never saw an airplane pilot, and yet they became airplane pilots. They even invented the airplane. How did that happen when they couldn't see it? I'm pretty sure Frederick Douglass didn't grow up around freemen, free Black people, and yet he became one. He could imagine it. He could go do it. Also didn't know many slaves who could read. Did that too. How did he do that without seeing it? So that's the kind of thought that is going on at the highest level. And then this one, which is right up there with wellness and it can't be what they can't see. Now we have joy and justice are inseparable. You can't have justice without joy because that is meaningless. And you can't have joy if it doesn't hold justice. Well, I can and I do. And okay, let me give you a depiction of justice. A child's killer gets convicted, dead to rights, he's convicted, goes away for life. That's justice. There's no joy in it. There's no joy in it because that child is still gone. Make that any other heinous crime, and there's justice. There's no joy. Likewise, we all saw the joy and the arms up and the celebration going on when a biological male won the gold medal in Paris in boxing. Lots of joy. for that individual and a whole bunch of other activists that thought it was fabulous. There was no justice in that whatsoever. None. And yet I can guarantee you that this person, Andrea Armstrong, would probably say that that was both joyful and just and full of justice. It's a matter of opinion. This is utter nonsense. Joy and justice are inseparable. Bullshit. Straight up bullshit. They're not inseparable. Very, very frequently, they don't go together. And why are you even pushing this nonsense? There's only one reason: to deny people the legitimacy of their joy if she doesn't share it. If she doesn't like what you're happy about, it's unjust. And therefore, you shouldn't be feeling it. That's the only reason. So there's that. And it's all part of the same project, which is to crush the last vestiges of individualism in the American psyche. It's on life support as it is. Our children really don't have a passing acquaintance with it, to be perfectly honest with you, unless they're being homeschooled or growing up in a home with diehard individualists as parents in spite of school. But they need to stamp it out. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to stamp it out. And the reason I say it's on life support is even if you look at our two parties right now in our current election cycle, you don't see a lot of individualism. You really don't see any teams. This team, that team, my team, your team, good guys, bad guys, good guys, bad guys, whatever. But I don't see people talking about individual liberty. I really don't. I really don't, except very narrowly, like a woman's right to choose. But they don't really mean that, because there are plenty of women who want to choose things that they don't want us to choose. Like, for example, when I didn't want to get a certain, treatment, shall we say, shot into my arm. They didn't want me to have the right to choose that. When I was having my children and I didn't want to have all kinds of interventions just because I was over 35 and I wanted a midwife, I didn't have the right in North Carolina to choose that. I had to find somebody that was affiliated with a hospital, and I had to go to the hospital by law. That doesn't feel like my right to choose. That doesn't feel like reproductive rights to me. So they don't really care. They care about this one narrow little thing, and they just call it that. That extends to everything else, taxation, et cetera, et cetera. Go to the other side. Go to the other side. Are my rights really respected when I'm told that, I should support certain kinds of things, going on or being taught in school, or I should support certain elements of, the military industrial complex just because that's respecting my rights? No, it's not. I should support a draft. No, I don't. I never will. It's slavery. If the state owns your body, that what is that? They own your life literally and say, go die by decree. What do you call that? So I don't see a lot of that. I really don't. So our kids are already living in a country that has completely forgotten our own founding principles. And now we have people coming in and go, nail in the coffin. We've got to put this thing down for good so it never comes back. So they'll be good and happy to just be allowed to continue to exist by our standards. And I can't tell you I was surprised to see this lesson plan. I wasn't. But even though I wasn't surprised, I guess I was still, that didn't prevent me from being disgusted by it. I've not gotten so jaded that I can look at something like that and go, oh, look at that. Not there. Still turns my stomach, even when I look at it and say, well, I knew this was coming. It was only a matter of time. So the final word is that from now on, when you see wellness, think SEL on steroids, think blockchain, think social credit score, and think emotional abuse, because that's what it is. If you have a child in the schools, you should not let them near this program. Anything that says wellness on it, you need to see it. You need to see every page of it. You need to know exactly what's going on, and you need to ask for an opt-out. Nobody should be tinkering with your child's emotions at school. They go to school to learn to read and write and do math and maybe learn some history, we hope, that isn't completely fake, learn some science, and hopefully that's it. No gender, no extreme sex ed, this should all be optional. And if your district is talking about bringing this in, oh, we're going to have a wonderful new wellness program. So good. Fight it. Even if there is an opt-out, other kids are going to get abused as parents don't realize it's bad. And then that will back up on your child because now you'll have the little cohort of Red Guard going, you don't look happy. Why are you not? Your wellness is bad. We already have that. We already have the kids that go through all these programs and then the kids who don't. And then, one group is looking at the other group and going, what's wrong with you? You're weird. It affects everyone. You have skin in the game, even if you pull your kid out. All right, last few comments. Let's check it out. Okay, so Dissident Teacher says, also, how are teachers one of the most mentally unwell people as a group going to arbitrary? Yes, arbitrarily, I guess you mean like arbitrate or whatever, the wellness of others. They shouldn't. I say yes, don't ask if you don't want to hear the truth. Imagine being judged by the order followers. It's a freaking nightmare. And then you'll have the tattletale spas. That exists. There's an app called Stop It, and kids report on each other. They also report on their moods. This person seems depressed because they might become a school, whatter. Oh, wait, I skipped one. Sorry. Star City Fame says Paris Olympics is the trial to personal social credit score. The people involved with shenanigans this year are all suing people, criticizing them. The government is openly backing them. Beware, it's coming. Yes. And in fact, a friend of mine, Josh Slocum, got a copyright strike on a video that he did reacting to a tiny little couple-minute clip from the Olympics. And, he was doing analysis and critique, and he got a copyright strike for something that is open source. It's public domain. And why did they do that? Well, it's simple. Because he was criticizing it. Forget US copyright law. Forget the fact that it's, it's out there, fair use. Copyright. They just said so because reasons. Tony says, it's funny how Mac PC logo is a bit in Apple and the word app can be short for Apple. Also, the smallest bit of information is a byte, as in biting an apple. Yep, that's why they did it. The newest lie they're selling is role modelism. Oh my God, I'm going to puke. Because nobody's role modeling mental health. Nobody. If that's even a thing. Word salad. Exactly. Also, when said Satan is not Satan, but say 10, as in the number 10, to say number 10, which is binary language. Now you're really reaching. The whole after school Satan club makes a lot of sense. Tokenism by way of role models. Yes, each category has its role model we must follow. But like I said, it's only temporary. It is only temporary. They will not, I guess they call it, I'm drawing a blank now. It's a kind of tolerance. I'll think of it. Marcuse. Anyway, where you tolerate certain things only to break the classically liberal mold, right? Because remember, to tolerate something is to put up with that which you otherwise find objectionable, but you're still allowed privately to find it objectionable. So you're just meant to tolerate it as long as you have to, rather than fight back against it and, and do away with it, shame it, etc. It doesn't mean acceptance, but as long as they push the boundaries of tolerance to where they're saying you must accept it, you must celebrate it, that breaks the brains and the spirits of the people who were going to some length to just tolerate it. They're like, this is actually not okay with me, but I'm not going to do anything about it because reasons, freedom, etc. it's not directly affecting me, so I'm going to tolerate it and walk on by. But when you tell me I have to celebrate it, and you tell me I have no choice, and I'm going to lose my property, and I'm going to lose my freedom, and I'm going to lose my money, I'm going to get sued, etc. And they do this to see, can we do it? Are they going to fight back? Oh, they're not fighting back. Look, they're not fighting back. Look, they're tolerating it. They're even more. They're taking it. They're taking it. They're taking it. You're broken. Mission accomplished. That doesn't mean you're going to let these crazy people that you just gave license to do all manner of stuff continue to be crazy like that. Every single totalitarian regime has done this. And as soon as they knew they had power, as soon as they knew they'd broken the majority who were just tolerating it, those people went bye-bye. They can't, they're too radical. They can't be allowed to continue to be making demands. Are you kidding me? And since they are the tiny minority, it's pretty easy to do away with them. And that is what will happen. Imagine the woke people being drafted. It would be like police. They're not going to stop them from doing it, though. Bitcoin blockchain is a backdoor to the CBDC. Yes. These lunatics live in their own minds. They are too stupid to realize that they are facilitating their own demise. I don't know that it's a matter of stupidity. I think it's a combination of ignorance and delusion. And I can't tell which is, more prevalent. But I think a fair few people genuinely believe they're doing good. But some of the most evil things that have ever happened in human history were done by people who genuinely believed they were doing good. They were doing something for social justice. They were doing something for the betterment of society. They were bringing about a great new world. I think we're at the point where a fair number of people actually believe that's what they're doing. And the reason they can believe it is they have never been taught the dark side of what they're doing. And they've been isolated from any questions about what they're doing by censorship, by, narrative management, by the kind of shaming and ridiculous. You probably saw it today, where they just came out with the same message about the economy, where they were just spitting back the identical quote about, well, remember when Trump, the last one when we had was during Trump. Well, last time it fell this far was Trump. But they were just quoting the same thing over and over. Like, here's what you need to think about this sentence. That's been going on for years. People no longer think for themselves. They've outsourced their thinking, and we're training children to outsource their feelings and outsource all of the things. Just plug in pretty soon the VR. Put on the VR. Now reality will be what we tell you it is. There it is, virtual. So it's the badges are going to define their future. And anybody who doesn't toe the line will end up either in a re-education program or suffering, because they will not have a job. Look, I'm a classic case. We don't have badges yet. We don't have a literal social credit system yet. I cannot, to save my life, get a job. Because everything is done electronically. Everything is submitted electronically. You can't walk into a place and ask for a job anywhere. They tell you to go on the website and fill it out. I would have to change my name, lie on my resume, make myself a completely different person so that they wouldn't be able to immediately harness the power of the internet to find out anything and everything they want to know about me. And everything they could find out about me is going to be something they don't want because of this channel. And I can't tell you how many people have told me, well, that's your fault. You did that. That's 100% your fault. You have nobody to blame but yourself. We're actually saying this in America now. We're actually saying that McCarthyism was fine. It was totally fine. No need to get upset about it anymore in the blacklisting of people. Like, we should have been okay with that. Should have been fine with that. I mean, they did it to themselves. They went to a Communist Party meeting once. They were best friends with somebody who went to a meeting once. They maybe broke bread with somebody who did. Maybe they didn't. They just worked for a studio where the leader of the studio one time broke bread with somebody who went to a Communist Party meeting. You'll never work again. Is that what we're saying? Is that where we are now in America? Where we tell people, like, your own fault? You spoke out? You should have kept your mouth shut? Because I'm actually hearing that from my fellow Americans. Your own fault. You shouldn't have used your name. You shouldn't have put your face on there. You should have been completely anonymous. Okay, well, thank you for telling me I already live in China. Pretty sad. And you're also telling me I should want to work for people who wouldn't want me because I have my own opinions. Also pretty sad. Anyway, you guys, thank you as always for watching, for listening. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you are not already subscribed to the channel. There are many ways you can help support me in my work. I don't, I don't like to ask for money because I know everybody's hurting, but it does help a lot again because I basically getting by here on tutoring and this channel and every other thing because I talk too much and people don't want to hire me. So yeah, there's that. But you'll always get the truth from me, or at the very least, what I know to be the truth. I'm never going to lie to you. And if that's worth something to you, I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your evening and week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.